So, if you're a new e-commerce founder starting out right now, you really need to hear this. You've probably spent, countless hours obsessing over your Facebook ads, your TikTok creatives, and making your website look perfectly aesthetic. But here's the harsh truth. The biggest reason brands actually go out of business, it isn't marketing, it's sourcing, literally. While marketing gets all the glory and the hype on social media, sourcing is the hidden engine that actually makes or breaks your brand. I mean, it's tough, right? You're dealing with late suppliers, the wrong samples, prices shifting out of nowhere, and constant delays. And if you don't have a rock-solid foundation there, you're basically just building a house of cards.
To put that into perspective, the playbook we're unpacking today comes from someone who knows exactly how high those stakes really are. $850 million. That's the total sales revenue generated by the founder of the massive e-commerce brand, the Udi. After living through the absolute chaos of scaling past that gigantic milestone, the founder, Davey Fogarty, laid out his exact operational playbook. And it proves that, while ops might be the hardest part of e-commerce, it is insanely rewarding once you actually nail it.
So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're walking through the ultimate tactical guide to building a resilient, factory-ready supply chain from absolute scratch. If you're starting out today, this is exactly the kind of guide you need to take things from operational chaos to total predictable control. We're going to see how to make your product factory-ready, vet the right suppliers, and build systems that actually protect your margins.
Okay, let's dive into this chronological blueprint. We'll kick things off with designing the tech pack, then we'll move into vetting and sampling suppliers, calculating true landed costs, tackling freight and fulfillment, and finally, we'll wrap up with forecasting and inventory.
All right, step 1, designing the tech pack. This is your blueprint for success.
So back when our source first started a brand called Calming Blankets, they were super eager for their first massive shipment. After weeks of waiting, the container finally arrives, they open it up, and their heart just totally sinks. The blankets inside were technically the exact same SKU, same basic fabric, but there were 3 completely different shades of gray, with totally different weights. It was a mess. And the harsh reality here, the factory didn't actually mess up. The founder did. They left key variables open to factory interpretation, which, as you can guess, is an incredibly expensive mistake to make.
And that is exactly why you absolutely need a tech pack. Basically, a tech pack is your product's master blueprint. It defines exactly how your product should be built, all the way from the raw materials down to how the packaging is folded. Without a tech pack, every single reorder is just a massive gamble. Because, you have to remember, factories don't see your brand the way you do. They care about throughput. They care about efficiency. If a tiny detail isn't clearly defined, they're just going to choose whatever is easiest and cheapest for them.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the exact tech pack checklist you need. If you're a new founder, literally take a screenshot of this right now. You're going to need product drawings from all angles, the exact materials, including finishes in GSM, strict measurements, Pantone codes for your specific colors, and precise label and packaging instructions, the whole shebang. And hey, if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not a designer, don't sweat it. You can literally go on to Upwork, hire an experienced product designer, and have them build this exact tech pack for you for around $200. Believe me, it'll be the best $200 you ever spend because it completely removes the factory guesswork.
Moving right along to phase 2, vetting and sampling suppliers. It's all about finding the right partner.
Look, most founders start out on Alibaba, and honestly, that's perfectly fine for research. But here's the process. Step 1 is to shortlist about 10 to 15 verified suppliers. Step 2, and this is crucial, get them on a video call for a virtual facility tour. You really want to watch out for massive red flags here. Things like vague answers, poor communication, or, someone who is clearly operating a factory out of their living room. Step 3 is verifying their certifications, like ISO or BSCI. And finally, step 4 is requesting highly detailed quotes using that shiny new tech pack you just made.
Let's move to the next slide and see how this builds into the actual sampling process. Because you never just blindly order 10,000 units right off the bat. First, you start with phase 1, the strike-off. This is just a small test for your materials and prints. Once you approve that, you move to phase 2, the pre-production sample. Now this is your gold standard. It has to match your tech pack perfectly. You keep a copy, the factory keeps a copy. Then, finally, phase 3, the production sample. This is the absolute final test right before mass manufacturing kicks off. If it doesn't match your phase 2 gold standard, you halt right there. You do not proceed.
All right, on to phase 3, calculating true landed costs. Time to look at the real numbers.
So the crucial point here is understanding what a factory is actually quoting you.
When they give you a price, they're usually giving you the ex-factory price. That only covers the physical production at their facility. And sure, it looks incredibly cheap, but it's also highly deceptive. What you really need to be calculating is the landed cost. That's the total cost of the product once it has crossed the ocean, cleared customs, and is literally sitting in your warehouse ready to be shipped to a customer. Landed cost is the only number that actually matters for your business.
Because you really have to watch out for these hidden margin killers. We're talking freight, duties and taxes, warehousing fees, and platform transaction fees. The source actually gave a brilliant example of this. Imagine designing a super cool new Oodie with built-in heated pockets and Bluetooth controls. Awesome, right? You plan to sell it for $50, but after adding up all these hidden fees on the back end, the true landed cost is actually $40, which means to actually get a decent margin, you'd have to sell it for $200, which completely kills the idea instantly. So please do this math before you manufacture, not after.
Which brings us to Phase 4, Freight and Fulfillment Logistics. Let's talk about moving your product.
Basically, you have two main options to move your stock. Air freight is incredibly fast, but it is super expensive. Sea freight, on the other hand, is much slower, usually taking around 30 to 40 days, but it is dramatically cheaper. And honestly, it's absolutely essential to use sea freight to protect your margins as you scale up. For new founders, the smartest tactic is usually a hybrid approach. You air freight a small initial batch so you can start selling and testing the market immediately, and then you have your big bulk shipment follow slowly on the sea to keep those costs way down.
But wait, before that container ever gets loaded onto a boat, you absolutely must do this. Book a final quality control or QC inspection. It usually costs around $200. A third-party agent will go into the factory, test random units, check the packaging, and verify the weight. Think of this as your ultimate insurance policy. If they catch a mistake there, the factory has to fix it, because once 10,000 flawed products are floating on the water, it is literally too late to do anything about it. That $200 check, it can easily save you $20,000 in damaged goods.
Okay, so once your product actually arrives, a 3PL, or third-party logistics warehouse, takes over. Vetting these guys is critical. You really need to know their error rates on shipped orders, their peak processing speeds, and exactly how they handle returns. The source shared a pretty terrifying story about this, actually. During Q4, they forecasted an absolutely incredible $45 to $50 million in sales. Massive, right? But their 3PL completely collapsed under the volume. They just couldn't get the orders out the door. Customers started thinking they were being scammed, the brand ended up in the news, it caused massive reputational and financial damage. So vet your 3PLs ruthlessly.
And finally, Phase 5, Forecasting and Inventory Planning, or how to prevent stockouts.
Take the source's extremely painful COVID stockout lesson. During the pandemic, their demand just absolutely skyrocketed. We're talking hitting $200,000 sales days back to back. Unbelievable. But within a week, they sold out completely. Poof, gone. Because they had zero forecasting systems in place, they couldn't catch up with the month-long manufacturing lead times. They ended up losing millions in potential sales. The hard lesson here is that failing to forecast is literally just gambling. The biggest reason brands panic ship or run out of stock isn't bad luck at all. It's just bad planning. And this brilliantly illustrates how to actually fix that planning. It's your golden formula. Your reorder point equals your daily sales velocity multiplied by your lead time plus a healthy buffer of safety stock. This is a simple equation, but it forces you as a founder to mathematically review your performance. Think about it. If you sell 50 units a day and it takes 60 days to get new stock in, plus you want, say, 500 units of safety stock just in case, you now mathematically know exactly when you need to pull the trigger on a reorder before it is too late. Which really brings us to the ultimate question as we wrap up this explainer. You've got the tech pack down. You know exactly how to vet the suppliers, calculate those sneaky landed costs, manage your freight, and forecast your inventory. Your product idea might be totally ready for the market, but is your supply chain? Take these tactical steps, implement them into your business today, and go build a brand that doesn't just market well on TikTok, but operates absolutely flawlessly behind the scenes.